I'm gonna be recording this just so we can put it up and have the gotchas that weren't here to still have this resource. But okay, cool. I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen. Let me know if you can see that.
That's good. Wait.
And yeah, thanks so much for joining us. This is the Building a Winning Resume Workshop presented by UCSB AMA and sponsored by Career Services. Amy and I are really, really excited to be here today. And there's a ton of things when creating a resume that, you know, really wins. And we're going to be going over a couple of things today, including like what you should include, how to choose your verbs, quantifying your impact, why fonts really matter, you know, your layout, creative resumes, the ATS, why you shouldn't be resume spraying, getting feedback, differing opinions, you know, all of these topics. And we really hope that coming out of this, you have a better understanding of how to build a resume that gets eyes on it. So yeah, without further ado, let's first introduce ourselves. I'm Devanshi. I'm currently an economics and art history student at UCSB, and this summer I worked at Snapchat as an advertiser solutions intern.
My name is Amy. I am a senior and I'm a political science and communications double major, and this summer I was a marketing specialist intern at Amazon.
Yeah, and we're really excited today. 6 seconds. Does anyone have any ideas what this number is or like what it means? Feel free to unmute.
The amount of time it should take to go through your resume?
Kind of, yeah. It's actually the how long a recruiter will look at your resume before moving on, which is kind of a scary number. So we want to make these 6 seconds as impactful as possible. And hopefully over the next hour or so, we will be able to explain to you, you know, how to do that. So our point is that first impressions really matter, and those first 6 seconds can really be a turning point between putting your resume in the let's give them an interview pile and putting your resume in the like not going to tell them that they're rejected pile. And so kind of going into the basics, every single line on this resume is really valuable real estate. I didn't really look at it like this, like from this perspective. And I think this perspective is like, is very important in building your resume. So let's not waste it. Let's make the most of every single space that we have. And on that note, your resume should read more like an achievement list rather than a job description. So a job description might say like, you will be creating Google ads. Great, right? But at the job, what did you actually do? You made X amount of Google ads that had a percentage of CTR that was really impressive, and you want to show off those achievements rather than the action or the job description of just doing them. And on that note, I'm going to pass it off to Amy to talk about what you should and shouldn't include in a resume.
Yeah. Before I get started, Devanshi, do you mind letting in some people in the waiting room? I think someone just messaged me about this.
I'm so sorry. Okay.
No, you're good.
Okay, go ahead.
All right. So here are some things that you should definitely include in your resume. These are just the basics and what you shouldn't. So for running over, please do not make your resume more than 1 page. I know in the beginning, you know, you have a lot of achievements and you have a lot of things that you want to add on, but especially as you're still a university student, it really shouldn't be more than 1 page. And I know it might seem difficult at first, but playing around with the margins, fonts, and the spacings can definitely help you in this area. Next is do not include your high school SAT or ACT or a low GPA unless A, a job specifically asks for it, or B, you're still a freshman and you're still kind of like low on the experiences. We really highly recommend straying away from this, as now you are in college. Most of the times they will not care about your high school experience. And if anything, it's a little bit tacky to show, but if you're a freshman, like discourage this for now, you should be fine.
Yeah, and kind of adding on to that, I know there's certain like career development programs that when you're applying for it, they'll explicitly ask you to put your high school like ACT and your GPA. So make sure you take a look at that, especially if you're applying to sophomore leadership summits, things like that, because they might be asking for it.
So here's some things that you should include. So one, any sort of relevant job experiences. This could be through internships. Other ways you can also put volunteering services. Do you want to keep going?
Sorry.
No, you're good. Any sort of projects you've done with multiple groups and things like that. Any sort of relevant courses as well. So classes that you've taken that kind of align with the job description you're going with. Next, also certificates. So if you've done, so our career development week, if you finish both workshops, you also get a certificate that you can definitely add on your resume. Extracurriculars. So any sort of clubs or sort of sports that you might be doing. And last but not least, leadership positions, as those are a huge factor for helping you just show off like your entrepreneurship and your human management skills. So next, this is what a resume just looks like. So it kind of tells you, who you are, says the achievement list, graduating years, and all just really summarizes your career and summarizes, who you are on a piece of paper for your first step, for your first career. Yeah.
And let's get into the specifics now. So impactful verbs. This is a section off of Amy's resume, pulled directly. And we can see here, what are some verbs that we see here right off the bat? Feel free to unmute.
Execute, manage, lead.
Exactly. These are really powerful verbs that Amy's chosen, and we see that they're in the very, very front of the resume. And that brings me to this point about tense. For previous roles, you want to use past tense, but for current roles, use present tense. And in terms of the actual verbs, Amy and I have kind of gone through a few resumes, and here some verbs that we've seen that don't fully illustrate the role of the job or what you did there. So for example, started, instead of started, say spearheaded or co-founded, it's much stronger. Instead of did, maybe try executed. Instead of made, try crafted or created. Instead of worked together, try collaborated. These may not seem like such huge deals and such huge fixes, but when you read a resume holistically, it really makes a world of a difference. And it's all about advocating for yourself, right? Like if you made bracelets versus you crafted those bracelets, right? If you started a club, no, you didn't start a club, you spearheaded that club, right? You're making an argument for yourself and you want to make sure that it's really, really strong. So our point here is that powerful words tell powerful stories, and your resume should be an extension of your own story, right? So we've kind of taken some verbs that we really like expanded, launched, demonstrated, transformed, implemented, conducted. These are verbs that you should be using, or a kind of verb that you should be looking for when crafting your resume.
Yeah, so next, we want to talk about quantifying your impact. So what does that really mean? When we say quantifying your impact, we're trying to say that you should add numbers wherever you are. So you want to go to the next slide. We talk about basically add numbers, wherever you can to illustrate what you did. So if you say, I did this, I don't really know exactly what you did. You can't really prove it. So what you do is you add numbers here that kind of show what you did. For example, increased engagement by 10%, that's a number. And then just kind of go into, how you made it those 10%. Lead a team of 5 students. 5 is also, showing demonstration of leadership and management roles, and decrease cost by, let's say, $5,000. These are just numbers that I made up, but you see how when I add a number right here, it definitely quantifies my impact, but really just shows what exactly I did and how it was able to create a bigger contribution. So next, if you can take anything out of this workshop, it is probably this. Every single bullet point on your resume should say accomplished X by doing Y, which resulted in Z. So what I mean is I say accomplished X, so what was I trying to do by doing what? So what were the actions that I took to accomplish X? And what was the overall result? And what was that quantifiable impact that I made? So let's take a few examples on the next slide. So for example, if I said, made graphics for social media channels. Great, but not really great. Not telling me how I did this, what I did, what the result was. There's no achieved X by doing Y, which resulted in Z. So instead of saying that, what you could say is drive social media presence by creating 30 print and digital graphics with Adobe Photoshop, which increased Instagram followers by 60%. So this shows that I accomplished X, which was drive social media presence, by creating 30 print digital graphics, which resulted in Instagram followers by 60%. It gives me the XYZ, and it also shows how I quantifiably am able to create an impact for what I did.
Yeah, and not only that, you feel the power, right? You feel like this person did something, and it's kind of like there's proof for it, right? Like made graphics for social media channels sounds like everyone else, right? But as soon as you say Adobe Photoshop and they increase followers by 60%, damn, like that's special, right? You want to be special. Okay, cool.
Now, I know, at least when I was first making my resume, it was kind of daunting because I was like, I don't have these numbers. I don't know where I'm going to pull them. And I don't really think that my experience was really exciting. But I really want you to think again and really challenge yourself to dive deep into what your overall impact was. So when you are writing your resume, ask yourself what that overall impact of your work was. So for example, if you created social media graphics, that's great and you don't feel like it's that much, but what was that overall impact? The overall impact was we drove brand awareness, we drove click-through rate, and we established a social media presence with a younger generation or audience. So really ask yourself, that small thing you did, what was that overarching impact, and how did you play a role in furthering the growth and furthering the success of the company or organization you worked at?
Exactly. And now that we've kind of established what kind of feel you want with the language of your resume, let's talk about what you want your resume to look like. Let's talk about why font matters, first of all. Serif, use with caution. Sans serif, preferred. This is the difference. This is a serif font. The serifs are the little like curly things, if you care. I'm a font geek, so I care, but most people don't really care. This is a sans serif font, and why it matters is that when you're looking at these two blocks of text, which one seems more readable? Like if it was really small, or if it was online, or if it was anything, which one seems like it's easier to read?
The right one.
Yeah. Exactly. And that's what we want, right? Like in those 6 seconds, you don't want anyone to look at your resume and be like, this is so hard. Like I'm doing this all day and this looks like this. Like it's stupid, but everyone is human. Your recruiters are human and they're not going to like take extra brain power just because, yes. So I really advocate for a sans serif font. And in terms of industries and fonts, certain industries really encourage and require certain fonts. Again, like read your job description. If you're applying for a certain position, for example, in finance, they really like Times New Roman. They really like it. They're so traditional and they like push you to use Times New Roman. So for finance, I would say do that. For marketing, any sans serif font, right? Like just make it easy to read, easy to digest, that. If you're doing anything design, it's your choice, but the point is just choose something that looks clean. Don't choose something that's hard to read, and think about what it's going to look like when it's small. Like, do not use Comic Sans. I swear, if you use Comic Sans, no, absolutely not. Don't do it. Don't use Impact. Don't do it. Don't use, I think this is called like Cavios or something. Just please. Or Lobster. Lobster is so fun. So fun, but not for a resume. Just be mindful of how you're presenting yourself and like what you want to come across. You also just choosing a simple font that's clean is going to prevent like any bias, right? Like, I don't know, if I saw a resume in Comic Sans, I probably would not read it. So just keep that in mind.
So next, let's go over layouts. This is some of the biggest questions that I get asked, and this is also the part that will make or break your resume, because if your layout isn't well established, it isn't easy for a recruiter to find. 6 seconds, they're not looking at it anymore. So let's kind of go a little bit deeper into how you should lay out your resume. So here's your ultimate resume checklist. So in the top, you want to put, your name, your phone number, email, city. Don't put your address in, just put the city you're in. That's all they need to know. And then your LinkedIn profile or your portfolio, if you have one. Usually designers will have one, but or engineers, but if you have one, definitely put it in there. Next, let's go over skills. So this could be, let's go over education because it's next in the hierarchy. You want to add your education. So what school you go to, UC Santa Barbara, your expected graduation year. This part will be really important for them to understand, what kind of roles you're looking for. Your major, definitely add BA or BS. And then your GPA, like we mentioned, 3.0 or above is usually the preferred GPA that we recommend putting onto your resume. It kind of depends based on what industry you're in, but 3.0 is usually the benchmark. Next, let's go into skills. So you want to add a few skills. One is your technical skills, and this could be anywhere from Adobe Photoshop, CS, HTML, Canva, social media marketing. So any sort of skills that required you to maybe take a class, take a certificate, or actually learn how to use. Next is your soft skills, and this is going to be really important for a lot of the marketing people out here, or even design and product or program managers. So this could be communication, writing, PR, any sort of, if you look at a job description, they'll usually say what they kind of preferred and the qualities. This is where you can throw in those soft skills. But when I say soft skills, please, 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 please do not write adjectives in front of it. Don't say motivated and hardworking. Like, that doesn't tell me anything. How am I supposed to know if you actually are quote unquote motivated and hardworking? Just put on soft skills that are actually teachable and something that you've learned over time. And last but not least, languages. So if you're like a marketing person like I am, definitely put in any sort of second language or third languages, Spanish or French if you've taken it in high school. This will just definitely amplify your interpersonal skills set. And then finally, going into relevant experiences. So for each job description that you have, you want to add your position. So whether you're an intern or volunteer or a project manager, the company you worked at or the organization, your start to end date, but only put the month and the year. You don't need to put the specific dates. And finally, for each job, you want to have 2 to 5 bullet points for each of the positions, depending on how much you can talk about it and how granular you were in. But usually just stick to 2 to 5. Moving on.
Feel free to take a screenshot of this if you need to. Definitely really helpful. And just to reiterate on Amy's point, do not put your full address. Do not do it, because your resume will end up on the internet somehow, and like, you just don't want that on the internet. Cool.
So for the love of God, I've seen a lot of people do this. Please don't do this, because if I said out of, from presentation and public speaking, I'm a 5 bullet points out of 5 bullet points. I don't know what that means. Don't put dots next to it. Don't show, from 3 to 5 or 4 to 5, I am this. Just write down presentation and public speaking. I wouldn't put active listening either. Listening is also spelled wrong. Perseverance, like we said, is an adjective. Don't write that. Teamwork and collaboration, you could probably throw in there. Written oral communication is good. Creativity, problem solving is fine. Just don't add those adjectives like, perseverance, hardworking. I've seen talented before. Just, you don't need to add those like that. Yeah, so here is an example of my resume. So if we kind of like look at this, it kind of shows that I started off with my education. So your education should always be at the top, especially if you're still in school or if you've recently graduated. So it should be most of our members here. Next, yeah, I think that's all. Yeah, so usually when you write your resume, you want to use this order. You start off with educations, and then you go into skills. I've seen people put skills on either the second bar or the bottom. However, we do recommend putting skills kind of near the top right under your education, as we've seen that there's a higher success rate with that. Next is your experiences, relevant experiences. And then last but not least, go into your projects and your leadership. So this would include, extracurricular clubs, any sort of volunteer work you've done, and even projects that you've done in class. So if you've had like a team project during class, you could put it definitely in this section if you feel like it's relevant for whatever experience that you're applying for.
Yeah, I know that was a lot. We can definitely go over it again afterward, but key takeaways from this section, make sure to use it in this order, and then education at the top, and make sure you have all these things on your resume. Yes, key takeaways from this section. Okay, cool. Let's move on to creative resumes and when they're appropriate. So if you're in engineering, STEM, project management, product, marketing, finance, business development, if you're in any of these functions or you're looking to go into any of them, I would just stick to the classic resume format unless you are personally handing off your paper resume to a recruiter. And we'll touch on the applicant tracking system, the ATS, later, but this is just a safe bet and is going to guarantee that you get through their system. And then if you're in design, UX, UI, branding, fashion, film, these are all great avenues to have a creative resume, but carefully. And just key takeaway from that, unless you're a designer, keep it simple, right? I did not want to hear this for the longest time, but it's not going to get through to any recruiter. And if there's no eyeballs on it, it doesn't even matter if it's pretty. So unfortunate, but the reality. So now we thought we could make it interactive and go through a couple of resumes and you guys could tell us if you like it or not. So here's the first one.
So drop in the chat, what are some first things you notice about it? Do you like it?
Or unmute yourself, either one.
Okay. 2 columns, spacing issues. That's true. I have never seen a QR code until, yeah.
Yeah. Bad font choice. I'm hurt. Okay, cool. Some positive, some negative responses. Cool. So this is actually my creative resume. So when I'm applying for design or more creative marketing positions, I use this resume. This resume is fine. We don't really encourage the use of 2 columns. It's not the best way to present information, but the reason why this one works is that all the space is used well. There is some white space, a little bit of white space is good, but it's not overwhelming, which is what we see in a lot of creative resumes. So this one would be a yes. Cool. What about this one?
First things you notice, is this a yes or no? Do we like this? No, yes. Okay. Thank God. I've noticed if you Google good resumes, the answer is they're all bad resumes. When we were looking for examples for resumes, if you just search up just good resumes, they're just all bad resumes. So, yeah, good job, team.
Yeah.
Yeah, so don't add a picture of yourself. Also, if I'm a recruiter, I don't know what I'm looking at. Your experience should be your bulk, but it is at the bottom right corner. I can't find the contact information. Oh, I guess I see it now, but that took me, over 6 seconds for sure. So this one would be a no. Stay away from resumes that look like this. And similarly, don't ask someone else to design your resume like this, since definitely seen, things like that as well.
Yeah, don't do it. Do it yourself, but don't do it. Yeah, I see that photos kind of encourage bias. So yeah, that's true. And you never know which way the bias is going to be. Yeah. Okay, cool. What do we think about John Resume-Go?
No.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
This is I think when I first started making resumes, I also wanted it to look, pretty graphic heavy. But this doesn't look like a resume to me. And if anything, I can't read this. I'm glad that, everyone is kind of getting a better eye at resumes because now you can clearly see, what is good and what is not. So this is a big example of a no-no. I don't know why there's a photo. Education was hard to find. I don't even know what the dots are telling me. So yeah, this might be good for a website, actually. This could be good for a portfolio. I see that it has strong branding. It has, interest, which is great, but it's not telling me much, especially on a resume, and it's not going to, come through with a recruiter.
Yeah, totally. What about Sarah Smith?
What do we think about this one?
Looks a little boring.
That's fair.
Okay, blurry doesn't matter here. I'm sorry, we don't have a high quality.
Kevin really out here flaming us. That's okay.
Personal address, yes, yes. All right. So format-wise, this is a yes, exactly. So sorry, we should have clarified. This is format-wise, yes. Things that we don't like here are, the large spacing. So things like if you use a bullet point, finish that entire bullet point so it hits to the end. Use any sort of spacing that you can, as well as, full address, that's a big no-no. But in terms of readability, readability and visibility, I can see the education, experience, it makes sense to me. I don't feel like I have to look extra hard for certain parts. So this resume format is a yes.
What about Harry Griffiths?
It's not bad.
Anyone else?
Other thoughts?
Looks professional.
Yeah, there's so much white space. Don't waste that much white space when you're
Yeah, so we would definitely deter away from a 2-column resume, as if I look at this for 1 second, all I see is blank spaces. So that's like obviously where my eye is first drawn to. So unless you're a designer, really stay away from 2 columns. And if you are a designer, make sure that like your career and relevant experience column is a little bit longer dragged out, so that still takes up the bulk of your resume. Photos, there's no need for photos. Also, the header takes up a good 1/4 of the page, which is just a lot of lost real estate that you could be going into something else, such as your experience, skills, education, and other things. So yes, this is a big no-no.
Also, don't list references on your resume unless they explicitly ask for it. That's really outdated. Yeah. William asks, can our resumes have color, like the dark blue for each subheader? Yes, but tread carefully. That is my advice. Anything to add?
Yeah, yes, but tread carefully. Don't go crazy. Stick to under 2 colors. But yeah, use it with caution.
I would say yeah.
1 color, all right.
Okay. Cool.
So let's go over that was the basics. Let's go over some of the more advanced things and some things that you're like, okay, I know how to make a good resume. What's next? So let's first talk about the applicant tracking system, or the ATS. First of all, has anyone heard of it? By any chance, just drop in the chat if you've heard of it, if you know what the ATS is. Nice. Okay. Cool. I'm glad that we have some people who knows about it. So just kind of to summarize, the ATS is just what companies will read your resume first. So oftentimes a recruiter isn't going to read your resume first. It's going to be going through a machine learning portal that reads your resume and then sends it off to a recruiter if it says a yes or a no, which is why we deter away from too creative a resume. If it can't read through an ATS, a recruiter is never going to look at it in the first place. So with that being said, how can you make a resume that's ATS optimized? We use jobscan.co. So when they talk about ATS, we're saying that we want your resume to match with the job description.
Yeah. Amy.
So how you want to do? What's happening?
Oh, you were paused. Can you repeat that?
Hello. What's the last thing you heard?
With JobScan Co.
Oh, yeah. With jobscan.co, you're able to, and we're not sponsored by them anyway. I've just been using them a lot. You're able to put your resume and also the job description that you're applying for, and it will match you to see if you are a good match or not. And this is what ATS will do. They will match to see if your resume is good for their job description, and if it's a go, then they'll send it to a recruiter. We generally recommend that you want this match rate to obviously be as high as possible. It doesn't have to hit 100%, but we usually recommend above 50%, which will be ATS friendly and ATS positive. Yeah. So how are we able to optimize for jobscan.co and for ATS? You want to weave the job description into your resume. So for example, if in the job description they say we're looking for someone with extensive experience in Google Ads, you should use that same language and say it within, one of your job descriptions. So such as like, spearheaded Google Ads extensively, or extensive experience in Google Ads, making sure that whatever they have on the job description is also in your resume so that it'll pass through that job scan.
Yeah, the main point here is to use the same language that they're using in the job description, but make it authentic to you. Like, don't fabricate anything in any way. Just try and you already have a resume, so try and tweak it to the language that they're going to be using in the job description.
One more thing, if you're wondering if you should copy and paste a job description and then put it into your resume and change the word into white so that they can't see it, but it'll still read it, don't do that, because once they catch you for that, they might blacklist you from their company forever. So try to do this as organically and authentically as possible without taking, shortcuts.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, that's the majority of the ATS. The key takeaway here is to use the same language that's in the job description without fabricating it. Or like if they're asking for experience in Google Ads, don't say you have Google Ads on, like you have experience on your resume. If you don't, you've never looked at Google Ads in your life, like make sure it's authentic to you. And that's how you can increase like this JobScan Co match rate. And then the other tip here is that if they're looking for certain skills, that's where you take the skills that you have on your resume and replace them with the ones in the job description. So if the job description says like interpersonal communication, put that in your skills section. Make sure that like you genuinely are good at those skills, but that's where you plug and play. Yeah, so on to why you shouldn't be resume spraying to 500 different companies. So just to clarify, resume spraying is when you get on LinkedIn, you go to the job section and you just upload your resume and easy apply to like 500 different companies. That's resume spraying. And here's why you shouldn't be doing that. Every resume you send should be a reflection of your unique skill set and how you fit at the company or organization. If you think about this from a recruiter standpoint, if they see that you didn't put any effort in, like they want to see someone who's genuinely invested in that specific role, in that specific organization, and this is an easy way to show that. Also, if you're just doing this, then likely like your ATS score is not going to be above 50 and likely it's not going to go through, especially if it's a big company. Obviously, this is not the only way to get your door into a big company, but it obviously helps. So definitely don't resume spray. What you should do instead is take time to research each company you're applying for. Not only will this narrow down your prospects, but also like if you're not willing to take 20 minutes to like research a company, you're probably not going to have that much fun working there, right? Like honestly saves you that time and struggle and effort after that, because theoretically what comes after a resume scan, if you get in, is an interview, right? And you're definitely going to have to study for that interview. And if you don't like the company anyways, there's no point. So take the time, just research the companies you're applying to, because a little bit of extra effort just goes a long way. And like, I know Amy can attest to this based off her recruiting experiences this summer, and I can also attest to this, but just research, basically. Every resume you send should be a reflection of your unique skill set and how you fit the company or organization. That's the key takeaway. So do your research.
All right, last but not least, or no, not even last, getting feedback. So oftentimes you're gonna have different feedbacks and you definitely wanna get this, especially before you send in your resume. And so here's our kind of our advice. Definitely ask people to read your resume. And this could be anyone from your friends to your family, peers, anyone in this call, Devanshi or I. Feel free to email us afterwards if you want us to take a look at your resume, career services, and just anyone you get your hands on. Your resume, since you've been staring at it for a long time, it really helps to get a fresh pair of eyes, not only to read for grammatical error, but if you can just show them your resume for 6 seconds, turn around, ask them, what's your key takeaway? Kind of, ask them, what did they see from your resume? Did they get a clear image? Are they able to easily read it? And this will just kind of amplify or kind of reflect what a recruiter will see when you send in your resume at the end.
Yeah. So differing opinions in getting all of this feedback. You're probably going to get some people that are like, wow, I hate that font. And some people are like, wow, like that looks so good. So at the end of the day, it's your resume. So do what you're comfortable with. But take the advice of leading professionals in your industry the most serious, right? So like if you're getting advice from a marketing professional and you want to go into marketing and they're saying they love the font, like keep it. But if you show that same resume to someone in finance, they're probably going to be like, puke, like, why did you do this? So make sure it's like industry specific advice, because even within the world of resumes, right, there's probably going to be different advice for different fields. I know like finance is so strict and picky on like what they want on your resume and what they do not care about or what they do not want. So take the advice of leading professionals in your industry and really take the time to like hear them out. Don't be defensive when it comes to your resume. I was so defensive about my high school resume and it was absolute trash. So probably should have taken that advice. But yeah, do what you're comfortable with, but get a lot of feedback.
So finally, we're going to jump into some FAQs, frequently asked questions, and also at the end, we get to kind of answer some of your questions that you may have. So the first question I get a lot is, should I include customer service jobs? So I understand when you're first early in your career, most of your jobs were, kind of fall into retail, customer service, restaurant. And the answer is yes, you should include it, but you should also tailor to that skill set so that kind of matches the job that you're applying to. And I know it's a little bit hard to kind of word your customer service job and how it could even apply to finance or marketing or any other role. So here's kind of how you do that. So let's say you're applying to a job that needs sales experience, and you'll probably be on the phone and be with customers, or if you're doing a marketing role that requires a lot of good communication, customer needs, and just interpersonal skills. So for the solution, when you talk about customer service, talk about those interpersonal communication and conflict resolution skills you'll learn, and bonus points if you can tell a story and close with a specific outcome. So instead of saying, cleaned, maintained sanitary, friendly, did all the counting money part, you can talk about how you handled customer and client services through.
Sorry, I'm so sorry.
You're good. It's okay. You handled customer and client services through strong interpersonal communication, and you also pitch services based on customer pain points and needs. So this kind of goes into one, you have good interpersonal skills, and also you're able to tailor a specific product and sell it to someone. You see how that kind of ties into a marketing role. For example, in marketing, I'm trying to sell my services of Apple to a general customer. If you're able to pitch services based on a customer pain point, that translates to, as a marketing role, I'm able to sell Apple's products to its general market audience. So see how these two roles really are able to connect with each other, but it all depends on how you word that.
Yeah, for sure. I'm just curious to know how many of us have included customer service jobs on our resume at some point in time. I know
Absolutely.
My first job was actually at Yogurtland, and it was so fun. And like I remember like trying to get to my resume and I was like, what do I even write about this? But yeah, definitely like you can spin any of your experiences at customer service roles and really like target it to what the role you're trying to get. Like finance, like dealt with, I don't know, like got the amount of money, like budgeted for this like expansion of our like store, whatever. You can jazz it up and it's still what you did, right? It's authentic to you, but you're just making it sound better. And so again, like tailor. This next question, Amy and I get a lot, which is like, I don't have a lot of experience. Where can I get more? And literally anywhere. You can literally get it anywhere. Like number one, relevant courses. If you are, let's say you want, since this is AMA sponsored, if you are a marketing student, like list your TMP courses, list TMP 124 marketing, list your econ courses if you're taking econ, your communication classes, your communication marketing classes. You can get experience with relevant courses. Even look outside of your major. Like if you're not a comm major, but you see a marketing in comm class, like try and take it. That you can get a lot of theoretical experience there, and that's really valuable. Number two, group projects that are relevant. For example, I know TMP sponsors the new venture competition every year. Like that counts as a group project that's extremely relevant to like whatever role that you're going towards. So don't overlook group projects. They can be extremely impactful. Number 3 is to stay active in clubs. So AMA has so many club events all the time, so many projects that you can get involved with, like our case comp and also like Google Ad grants. These are really tangible skills that you can apply to any kind of role. And really staying active in those clubs, it's one thing to just list them on your resume as like being a member, but when you're actually doing the promotion and you're doing the projects, that's when you're going to get that real experience that you will have something to talk about on a resume. And then the 4th thing is to join projects. You might know someone that's working at a local like business and IV to like redo their marketing. Like try to join that. Join anything that's even slightly relevant. You're going to learn from people around you. You're going to learn from experiences. So don't overlook these. Number 5, volunteer at a local nonprofit. Like we don't mean like just like if it's at the animal shelter, like taking care of animals when that's not really what you like to do. There's so many different ways of giving back. And like, I know like Amy is such a good example of this, but she got involved with in a nonprofit called Open Meal that provides meals to those that are provides meals that for those who are food insecure, with partnering with restaurants and things like that. And she's not like making the food, right? But she's doing the marketing for that org, and she's using her skill sets to give back, and that's incredibly impactful and also gives her experience. So use your skills to really, really drive like your own growth. And then the last thing is that like Amy and I always have like projects coming and going. Amy, you can probably touch on this more.
Yeah, so I don't know. We always have projects coming in and out. Definitely get on LinkedIn, because I noticed that after I got active on LinkedIn, a lot of people have been reaching out to me about, potential projects that I can work on. And I always say, hey, I can't do this right now, but I can think of someone that I can refer this project to you. So if you're looking for any sort of marketing, BD, finance, project management skills and just experience, come talk to us after, and we'll be happy to kind of point you in the right direction.
Yeah, exactly. These are all really great places to start. If you don't have a LinkedIn already, highly, highly suggest getting on LinkedIn. I've learned so many things just from really incredible professionals and students. So make a LinkedIn. Definitely goes a long way. And yeah, the last question, I'll pass it off to Amy.
Last question we also get a lot is, should it include an objective? So if you don't know what an objective is, it's in your resume. In the top, it'll say, 4th year student at UC Santa Barbara, passionate for XYZ, done XYZ. So like a quick blurb as to who you are. I've heard both, if you should include or if you shouldn't include, but here's kind of the ultimate, like our advice. So unless you have a lot of empty space on your resume, just take out the objective. In most cases, the objective will be skipped. I've heard resumes say, like they will read a resume, and some who say they haven't, but for the most part, most of them are going to skip it and go directly into the nitty gritty for the bullet points. But if you do write an objective, that's totally fine. Make sure that it stays no more than 3 lines, and that your objective is, again, no adjectives like motivated and hardworking, but rather quantifiable, like 4th year, 2+ years in this experience, previous experience in, those technical skills. Make it very, very, very concise about who you are, and no filler words, as it's most likely going to be skipped. So if it's not eye-catching in the first place, it's not going to be read.
Yeah, and just going off of that, I know so many recruiters that have expressed very like strong emotion towards an objective, where if they see one, they're just like, they're gonna take it out of the pile. They're just like, nope. And the people that are like, yeah, an objective is fine, like that, like if you weigh the benefit and the costs are much higher than the benefits. So I don't have an objective on my resume. I don't think Amy does either, but yeah, we would just say not to include it, but obviously up to you. And with that, we just wanted to leave enough time for questions. If you want to like get specific advice, Amy and I are here for that also, but that is our entire presentation. Feel free to come off the mic and ask any questions.